Wind and Shadow. The town of Pine Hollow, nestled in a valley surrounded by rugged mountains, a quiet place where time seemed to move slower. Among its residents was a man named Daniel, a carpenter known for his skill with wood and his unwavering solitude. His only companion was his dog, Max, a shaggy, golden-furred mutt with eyes that seemed to understand the world in ways no human ever could. The bond. Max wasn't just a pet to Daniel. He was family, a loyal friend who had stayed by his side through the hardest of days. Daniel had found Max 5 years ago, huddled under a collapsed barn during a storm. The dog had been little more than skin and bones, but there was a determination in his eyes that struck Daniel. He had carried Max home, nursed him back to health, and since that day, they had been inseparable. To outsiders, Daniel was a mystery. He rarely spoke of his past, though whispers around town claimed he had lost his wife and child in a car accident years ago. Max, with his boundless energy and gentle spirit, had become the anchor that kept Daniel moving forward, even when grief threatened to drown him. The journey begins. One autumn morning, a letter arrived for Daniel. It was from his estranged brother Sam, whom he hadn't seen in over a decade. The letter was short and abrupt. "I need your help. Come to Ridgeville. I'll explain when you get here." Daniel hesitated. Ridgeville was over 200 miles away, across treacherous mountain terrain and desolate stretches of wilderness. Yet something in Sam's words stirred Daniel's sense of duty. He packed a bag, gathered some supplies, and called Max to his side. Together, they set out on a journey that would test their bond and change them both forever. Challenges along the way. The first few days were uneventful, with Daniel and Max following winding trails through the woods. The crisp autumn air was invigorating, and Max bounded ahead, chasing leaves and barking at squirrels. But as they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the path grew steeper, the nights colder, and the challenges more formidable. Their first real test came when they reached a swollen river, its waters churning angrily after recent rains. The bridge that once spanned it had collapsed, leaving no easy way across. Daniel considered turning back, but Max's determined bark reminded him of the urgency of their mission. Daniel fashioned a makeshift raft using fallen logs and vines, securing Max with a rope harness. The crossing was harrowing, the current threatening to pull them under at every moment. But with grit and teamwork, they reached the other side, soaked but triumphant. As they rested by the fire that night, Daniel ran his hand through Max's fur. "I don't think I could have done that without you, buddy," he whispered. Max wagged his tail, his warm eyes reflecting the firelight. The storm. 2 days later, a violent storm swept through the mountains. The wind howled like a wild beast, and rain lashed at them with unrelenting fury. Daniel found shelter in a rocky overhang, but it was barely enough to keep them dry. Max pressed close to him, his body a comforting weight against the chaos outside. As the hours dragged on, Daniel felt a pang of guilt. He had chosen to embark on this journey, but Max hadn't. "I'm sorry I brought you into this," he said softly. Max licked his hand, as if to say, "We're in this together." An encounter with wolves. One night, under a full moon, Max's growls woke Daniel from a restless sleep. He sat up, heart pounding, and saw the shadows of wolves circling their camp. Their yellow eyes glowed in the darkness, and their low growls sent shivers down Daniel's spine. Gripping a branch from the fire, Daniel stood his ground, waving the flaming end to keep the wolves at bay. Max stood beside him, his fur bristling, teeth bared in a defiant snarl. Together, man and dog faced the pack, their bond a wall of unyielding strength. Eventually, the wolves backed away, disappearing into the night. Daniel collapsed to his knees, pulling Max into a tight embrace. "You're braver than I'll ever be," he murmured, a deeper meaning. As the days turned into weeks, the journey took a toll on Daniel. His body ached, his spirit wavered, and doubts crept in. Why had Sam called him after all these years? Was it worth risking their lives? But every time Daniel faltered, Max reminded him of what mattered. The dog's unwavering loyalty and boundless energy were a testament to resilience, a reminder that life's challenges were meant to be faced head-on, not avoided. One evening, as they rested under a canopy of stars, Daniel reflected on his life. He had spent years wallowing in grief, shutting out the world and everyone in it. But this journey, this partnership with Max, was teaching him something profound. Survival wasn't just about enduring hardships. It was about finding meaning in the struggle and forging connections that gave life its purpose. Reaching Ridgeville. After weeks of hardship, Daniel and Max finally reached Ridgeville. The town was smaller than Pine Hollow, its streets quiet and lined with weathered houses. Sam's home stood at the edge of town, a modest cabin surrounded by pine trees. When Sam opened the door, his face was pale and lined with worry. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Inside, Daniel learned the truth. Sam was dying, and he wanted to mend their fractured bond before it was too late. The brothers talked late into the night, sharing memories, regrets, and forgiveness. Max lay at their feet, his presence a comforting constant. In those moments, Daniel realized that his journey wasn't just about reaching Ridgeville. It was about healing, letting go of the past, and embracing the connections that made life worth living. A new beginning. Daniel stayed in Ridgeville for several weeks, helping Sam with repairs around the cabin and sharing stories by the fire. When the time came to say goodbye, Sam smiled through his tears. "You've always been stronger than you think," he said, "and that dog of yours, he's proof of it." As Daniel and Max made their way back to Pine Hollow, the journey felt different. The mountains were no less rugged, the challenges no less daunting, but Daniel's heart was lighter. He had faced the wind and shadow, not alone, but with a steadfast companion who had taught him the true meaning of resilience, loyalty, and love. And so man and dog returned home, not as they were, but as they were meant to be, stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever life had in store.